Hello, my name is Mr. Asprey and these are my top 10 calculator CG50 hacks for A-level maths pure exams. I hope you find this useful. If you do, please do subscribe to the channel, do like the video and do share. Now let's get into it. Let's do it. Tip number 1, the basics. So go to graph and I'm going to plot myself a quadratic. I'm going to click V window and then I'm going to click standard. And after I've done that, I can press plus or minus to zoom in or out. So I'll press plus and then I'll move the D-pad around so that I can get a good view of my quadratic. The next thing I could do is press G-solve and I can find the roots by pressing root. And that gives me the two x values where the graph crosses the x-axis. I can then press G-solve and press minimum and that will give me the minimum value. And I can also press G-solve and find the y-intercept if I so wish. And once I've got all that stuff, I can find a second function and I can plot it on the same graph and I can find where these two lines / curves intersect. So press G-solve intersect and I can swip between them and that gives me the intersection points. Tip number 2, differentiation. I've got my two functions from the previous example and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Shift Setup and make sure that I've got derivative turned on. And once I've done that, I can then click on Sketch and I can click Tangent and then I can choose an x value to investigate. So let's click 4, x equals 4. And it tells me right there what the gradient is at that point and also what the y value is. And if I press execute again, it gives me the equation of the tangent at that particular point. Happy days. I can press exit and then I can press sketch again and I can click on normal this time. I can again choose the x value equal to 4. It sketches the normal for me. It gives me the gradient of the tangent still. But if I press execute, it will give me the equation of the normal. Perfect. Okay, I can go back into run matrix from here. So I can click on option and then go to calc and then go to d by dx. And let's say I wanted to differentiate x squared plus 2x. Well, I'll just type it in and it will give me the value of the derivative at a particular point. So if I click x equals 3, it tells me that at that point the derivative is 8. So that's great for checking. And I could do exactly the same thing with the second derivative. I just click the second derivative button, type in my function and then type in my x value and it will give me the value of the second derivative at that point. Brilliant. Tip number 3, integration. Now I've got my two functions from the previous example here. Now before I delete them, what I will do is I will store them in my calculator so that if I need them, I need to come back to that question, they will be there for me. So I can click on Tool and then I can click on Graph Mem and Store and I can put it in number 1. And that means that if I ever need to come back to that question, I can just click on Recall and those functions will come straight back up, saving me some time. Okay, now I'm good to delete them and I'm going to then input my function which I want to integrate and I'm going to press execute and then I'm going to want to move that around so that I can find the area between -2 and 0 which I want to try and calculate, and I'm going to press G-solve, I'm going to go across, I'm going to press the integral dx button, I'm going to press mixed and then I'm going to type in my two limits which are -2 is the lower bound and then 0 is the upper bound, and it will show me the area and it will tell me the value of the integral and it will tell me what the area is. Happy days. And then what I can do is I can go back and let's say I want to do a more challenging integral like between a curve and a line. Well, I can type in my line in the second position, I can press execute, execute again, and now what I'm going to want to do is find the area in between the curve and the line. So I want to go from between -5 and 0. So I press G-solve, I go across again, not like that, like that, not like that. Yeah, I go across again, there we go. And I go the integral sign and I go between -5 and 0. Brilliant, -5 and 0. There we go. And it shows me that beautiful area there, and notice that the value of the integral is different from the actual area, and that is because at some point the curve is on top and at some point the line is on top. So this tells me that I need to do more investigation. I need to split it up into two parts in order for me to show my calculation in the exam, but it gives me a really good indication of what's going on. Now here's another little trick. What you can do is you can go back into Run Matrix, and there is an integration button which you can find by going to Option and then Calc and then Integral DX, and you could type in a function there, or what you could do is you could press vars and then you could go to graph, and y1 would be the cubic, and then I could take away y2, which was the line, and it saves those functions from the graph app. And then you could press 0 and you could go down and you could press -5, and you should get the same answer as we got before, which was -43.75. Tip number 4, parametrics. You need to go to graph function and hit the type button, and then hit the parametric button after that, and then you'll get an X, which I can type t plus 2, for example, and you will get a Y, which I can type t to the power of 4 minus 2t to the power of 3, and execute that. You can't see much there, so I'm going to hit V window and press standard, and then I'm going to zoom in by pressing plus and just move it over a little bit. That should be good. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that sketch button again, and I'm going to try and find a tangent, and this time when you press a number it gives you as a t value, so always remember that. And t equals 1, for example, right there. It tells you dx by dt, dy by dt and dy by dx at the point t equals 1. And again, if you press execute again, you get the actual Cartesian equation of the tangent. Fantastic. Now that graph looks a bit funky, and what I can do is I can click on V window, because as standard the graphs are drawn with t equals 0 as the minimum, but I can change that so that -2 is the first t value, and that will give me some more of the graph to the left hand side. Tip number 5, graph transformations. Let's say I want to try and transform cos of x. So I put it in the first spot, and then I can put in alpha a plus y1 being cos of x, the first function that we have there. And when I press modify, not draw, it will give me the two lines. So the blue one is cos x, and then I have the transformation, and I can press left there and it will change the a value, and it changed it by a step of 1, but if I could change the step to 2, and then if I press right here it's going to go up 2 every time, so from 1 to 3, and you can see it jumping like that. Okay, I can go back now and I can change that. Instead of a plus, let's make it a times, which was going to stretch the cos x in the y axis. Again, hit modify, and you can see here a lovely graph, and I can change that by pressing whatever a value I want. So I could press a equals 4, for example, and I get a lovely cos graph like that, which has been stretched up by a factor of 4. Press -1, and I'm going to get that reflection in the x-axis. Beautiful. And we can also do a graph transformation for x rather than y. And in order to do that, you just need to write the function y1 and then open up a bracket and then press x, the variable, and then -b, for example, and this is going to translate it in the x-axis. And again, it's the same thing. You could just change the press modifier, and you could change how much you want to move it just by clicking on any value for B. Tip number 6, and it's the absolute cheat code. Yes, you know all about it. It is SolveN. Okay, let's get it. I'm not sure what that's doing there, but I mean, if you say so. SolveN, click Calc on the option screen, and then go to SolveN, and you can solve any equation you want. So let's solve sine 2x, for example, and you have to find the equals button, which is really hard to find. You press Shift, and then it's somewhere, it always takes me ages. I think it's the decimal point. There it is, bosh. And let's say that equals 0.5, and then you press comma. You're solving for x, so you need to put in x. And then after that, you need to put the bounds in which, or the range. So I want to go from 0 to 2 pi, let's say, which should give me a decent number of solutions. I close the brackets, I press execute, and don't worry about that. Just press exit, and bosh, there they are, 4 solutions. Tip number 7, composite functions. Who knew you could do this on your calculator? Let's say I've got 2 functions. F of x is x squared plus 1, and g of x is ln of x. Well, what if I wanted to work out f of g of x? Never fear. What you could do is type in y1 for your f of x. So press right on the D-pad, click the y button, and then press 1, and then open up brackets, so f of, and then y2, which is g. And then close the bracket and press execute. And it will sketch f, g, and f of g. So f is the quadratic in blue, g is the ln function in red, and f of g is the green function. Now you can tell the domain of f of g is x greater than 0 just by looking at the graph. And let's say you wanted to find the range of f of g. Well, all you'll need to do is click gsolve, and then click minimum, and you need to go across to the one that you want. So the one that's flashing at the moment is the quadratic, and then that's the g of f of g is now flashing. Press execute, and bosh, there it is. It tells you the y value is 1, so therefore f of g is greater than or equal to 1. Tip number 8, modulus functions. We need to go to graph once again, and then go to option, and then go to numeric, and then hit abs. And then you can type in any function you want. So for example, 2x plus 1, and we can sketch it. You're going to get that classic V shape. And let's imagine now that you're trying to solve the modulus of 2x plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 2. Well, you would just sketch the modulus of 2x plus 1 minus 3. And then you would go to the second function and just type 2. Press execute, and then you need to go to gsolve, and once you've done that, you can just click on the intersection points and scroll between them, and you get your 2 x values. Job done. Tip number 9, and we're talking sequences. Now this is really useful for the trapezium rule. First off, go to run matrix, and then if you like, and then go to option, and then go to list, and then go to sequence. And let's say you were doing a trapezium rule question, and this is the function 7 minus x squared. Then you just type it in, and you type comma x, and then let's say that you were trying to work out the values between x equals 1 and x equals 3, and the heights of the trapezium was a half. Then you just type comma x, comma 1, comma 3, and then comma 0.5. And there they are. Those are all of the values that you're going to need. You literally can just fill the table in straight away, and you can press S to D, and you can get them in fraction form if you so wish. Now let's look at summing an arithmetic series. So what I'll need to do is type, go to math right at the start, and then go to sigma. And let's say my nth term for this arithmetic series was 4n plus 1, so I just type 4x plus 1. And if I wanted to sum it between 1 and 10, then I put 10 on the top, and at the bottom I put x equals 1, and there I have my summation. Tip number 10 is the recursion function on your calculator. You can find it in the menu right there, and then let's say you've got an iterative formula which you need to work out a a root in which it converges to, you just need to type it into the recursion function and then press set. And let's say I want 12 values just to be sure. And let's say I want to start at 0.3 because that's where I'm told the starting point needs to be. I just type in 0.3, I press execute, and then I go to the table button. And this is going to give me all my x values. So just written out there, x1, x2, x3, all there for you to write down. And also if you just scroll down, then you're going to get to the value for x for which the formula converges upon. And that is essentially your solution, that is your root. Okay, now we can also use the recursion function on your calculator to do periodic sequences. So let's say you were given a sequence of an minus 3 over an minus 2. You can type it in and then you can go back to set, and let's say this time I want fewer values, I only want 6. And let's say I was told that the first value to start with was 3. So you type that in and you press table, and now you can see that this is a periodic sequence because it repeats every 3. So the order is 3. And we're done. Happy day. I hope you found that useful. If you did, and only if you did, subscribe, like and share. Be very grateful. Bye for now.